Hey boys and girls. All right, today what we're going to be talking about, we're still going to be doing our word problems because those are so important for us to know how to do. But we're going to take a little bit of a different spin on it today. We're going to be doing something that we've done in class before, so this shouldn't be too unfamiliar to you. We're going to be talking about multiplying by multiples of 10. All that means is that we're multiplying by numbers that you could multiply 10 by something and get that number. So like I could say 4 times 10 is 40. So 40 is a multiple of 10. Or I could say that 2 times 10 is 20. So 20 is a multiple of 10. Anything that I have 10 as one of my factors when I multiply could be a multiple of 10. So like 8 times 10 is 80. So that's all that means when it's a multiple of 10. It's not anything big or hard or confusing. That's all that it means. All right, so we're going to look at them within word problems because it's still so important that we know how to do those word problems. All right, so let's get started with our first example. All right, the very first one, it says that Sonia and her 3 brothers each had $10 to spend at the toy store. What is the total amount of money that they had to spend? So as always, when I see a word problem, always, the very first thing I'm going to do is figure out what is my question. So in this one, my question says, what is the total amount of money that they had to spend? All right, so I know what I'm looking for. And now I can try to figure out, well, what numbers do I see that may give me a little clue as to what I should do? So if I'm looking, I'm going to see that it's Sonia right here and her 3 brothers. So if I have Sonia and her 3 brothers, how many people do I have? That's right, I have 4. That's kind of a tricky one. I wanted to see if you could get it right. So I have 4, and then it says that they each had $10. Well, if I look, Sonia and her 3 brothers, they're all people, and 10 is dollars. And I can't add or subtract people and dollars because they're not the same thing. So I know I'm going to have to probably either multiply or divide. And when I look at my question, it says, what is the total amount of money? And that word total tells me that I need a number that's bigger than the numbers that I already have. So I know that I'm going to have to be multiplying because I decided I could either only multiply or divide, and I needed to get bigger, so I have to multiply because I'm looking for a total. I'm looking for a whole. I have my parts, and I'm looking for the whole. So I have Sonia and her 3 brothers, which is 4 people, times they each had $10. So if I do 4 people times $10, let's think about 4 times 10. That just means that I have 10 4. So I have 10, 20, 30, 40. And I already know that. But when I'm multiplying by a multiple of 10, I get to use a secret trick. And it lets me do this right here. Whatever number is my multiple of 10, and in this one, it's just 10, I can take the 0 from that and just change it into 1. But I can't just make that 0 disappear. It has to go somewhere. So I'm going to take it from the end of my multiple of 10, and it's going to do a little flip right down to the end of my answer. And now I'm just left with my basic fact of 4 times 1. And 4 times 1 is 4. So I can say that they had a total of $40 to spend at the toy store. All right, let's do another example. Let's make it just a little bit harder. I bet you guys can do it. All right, this next one, it says that Natasha is making necklaces for her 5 friends. Each necklace needs 20 beads. How many beads will Natasha need to make all of the necklaces? So just like I did before, I'm going to start off finding my question, finding my numbers, and finding my keywords. So my question, I'm always going to know is my question because it ends in a question mark. And it says, how many beads will Natasha need to make all of the necklaces? There's my question. So I know that if I look at that question, it says how many beads. So I'm looking for a number of beads. That's what I'm looking for. So I could even make myself an answer like over here, blank beads. All right, let's look for my numbers. And it doesn't say Natasha and her 5 friends. It just says that she's making them for her 5 friends because she's such a sweet friend. So we're going to talk about her 5 friends. and that each necklace needs 20 beads. And now if I look in here for some keywords, I see this word each, and we've talked about how the word each can either mean to multiply or divide. So I know I'm probably doing one of those. Because I also see that I have my numbers are friends and beads, and I can't add or subtract those. So I know I have to either multiply or divide them because they're not the same thing. And it's looking for how many will she need to make all of the necklaces. So I'm trying to put all of my necklaces together to get a bigger number. So if I'm either multiplying or dividing, and I need to find a number that is a total or that is a bigger number, is multiplying or is dividing going to help me get a bigger number? Absolutely, multiplying is what's going to help me get my bigger number. So that's what's going to let me set up my equation. If I wanted to draw a picture of it, I could draw out circles for her 5 friends and say each of them has a necklace that requires 20 beads. And so that's kind of what it would look like in picture form, but that's not very helpful. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to write the equation for what I'm doing. And it says that I'm going to have 5 friends times 20 beads per necklace. And we're going to use our trick that we used last time. So I'm going to figure out which one is my multiple of 10, and I'm going to take the 0 and I'm going to and put it at the end. And now I'm left with my basic fact of 5 times 2. When I'm looking at 5 times 2, that's so easy. I know 5 times 2, that's 10. So my answer is going to be 100. So I know that Natasha would need 100 beads. All right, let's move on to our very last example. And this one's probably going to be the hardest one of all. But you guys are super smart, and I know you can do it. All right, it says that Sandra collects 40 seashells each day. Man, Sandra must be on a roll. If she collects seashells for 8 days, how many total shells will she have? So I know I'm going to always find my question by looking for where my question mark is, and it's the sentence right in front of that. Normally it's got how or what or who. It's got any of those kind of question words in it. And this one, I see that word how. So it says, how many total shells will she have? Well, if I look up here for my numbers, I see that I have 40 shells. And I see that I have 8 days. And I see also, going on to my keywords, I have this word each. And we've talked about how each tells me that I'm either going to be multiplying or dividing. And I can even go back and check that by saying, well, I have 40 seashells and 8 days. And I can't add or subtract seashells and days because they're not the same thing. So I either have to multiply or divide them. So now I need to look at my question and see what I'm looking for. It's looking for the number of total shells. And that word total tells me that I'm looking for a whole. It tells me I have my 2 parts and I'm looking for a whole. So I'm looking for the number of shells. And if I were to draw this out as a picture, I could make each circle represent 1 day. 5, 6, 7, 8. And on each day, she got 40 shells. So I can go through and I can put 40 in each of my little days. That's supposed to be 0. Well, that takes a whole bunch of work, and I'm not trying to count that much. So I'm trying to do this the easiest way that I can possibly manage. So when I write my equation, it's going to look something like 40 times 8. And if you remember the trick that we used earlier, we figured out which one of these numbers was the multiple of 10, and it's typically the one that ends in 0. So I'm going to take that one, and I'm going to cross that 0 out, and it's going to loop-de-loop back there to the end of my answer. And now I'm left with my basic fact of 4 times 8. And we all know that 4 times 8 is 32. So that tells me that by the end of 8 days that Sandra will have collected 320 shells. So guys, this works every single time you're doing a multiple of 10. And don't let that multiple of 10, that's a kind of a big phrase, but don't let it be a scary phrase to you. It's just numbers that end in 0, or that end in 10, I should say. Those are all multiples of 10. So we've talked about this before. Now we've got some extra practice with it, and I know you guys are going to do great on it. All right, bye guys.